President Trump is no longer considered to be a rational actor in this dialogue. I don't want us to take our eye off North Korea. The current language out of the administration, the lack of a diplomatic and serious engagement strategy, in my view, has us sliding toward war by next summer.
The U.S. Army is checking areas near the heavily fortified demilitarized zone for possible signs of underground tunnels dug by North Korea. According to the U.S.-based website Defense News, top U.S. military officials who were recently in South Korea showed great interest in enhancing electronic warfare capabilities, both in the skies and on the ground. The officials said the U.S. Army is doing its best to analyze the North underground facilities where the regime stores missiles, artillery, and ammunition. The U.S. hopes to use electronic band waves to paralyze the operation of North Korean army units.
The top military officers of South Korea and the United States have discussed enhanced cooperation against North Korea's repeated threats. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Jong spoke with his U.S. counterpart, General Joseph Dunford, on the phone late Friday night. General Jong said the two countries' alliance is stronger than ever and expressed hopes to move forward with their annual military committee meeting, security consultative meeting both scheduled for later this month. The two countries also plan to hold joint military drills off the coast of the Korean Peninsula next week.
Kim Jong-un, in terms of him having ICBM capability, nuclear capability, firing missiles over Japan, our ally, threatening Guam, and potentially maybe being able to reach the United States, continental United States, with a nuclear weapon. At some point, this is going to come to a head. What was the calm before the storm?
We can't let this to go on. We just can't. Now, you can say what you want. This should have been handled 25 years ago. It should have been handled 20 years ago and 10 years ago and 5 years ago. It should have been handled by numerous, not just Obama, but certainly President Obama should have taken care of it. Now it's at a point where it's very, very far advanced. Something has to be done. We can't allow this to happen. Now, China's been very helpful, I think, you know, who knows? They seem to be very helpful. They cut off banking to North Korea. That's something they've never done before. They've cut down, way down on the fuel, and a lot of other things. We're going to see what happens. But we cannot allow this to happen. This should have been taken care of long ago. Clinton gave them billions of dollars, gave them lots of other things.
Today, I want to announce an important step forward in the situation in North Korea. This afternoon, we have received formal confirmation from North Korea that it will freeze the major elements of its nuclear program, while a new round of talks between our nations proceeds. In response, we are informing the North Koreans that we are ready to go forward with a new round of talks in Geneva early next month. North Korea has assured us that while we go forward with these talks, it will not reload its 5-megawatt reactor with new fuel or reprocess spent fuel. We have also been assured that the IAEA will be allowed to keep its inspectors and monitoring equipment in place at the Yongbyon nuclear facility, thus allowing verification of North Korea's agreement. We welcome this very positive development, which restores the basis for talks between North Korea and the United States. In addition to addressing the nuclear issue, we are prepared to discuss the full range of security, political, and economic issues that affects North Korea's relationship with the international community. During these discussions, we will suspend our efforts to pursue a sanctions resolution in the United Nations Security Council.
And before the contract, the ink was dry on the contract, they were already starting again with the missiles and with the nuclear, frankly. So we are in a position, look, we're very strong. I'm building up the military like nobody's ever seen. We're close to $800 billion in spending. Sean, I don't know if you know, but the military, our military was totally, really depleted. You look around and you see what's going on. You take a look at what we're buying right now with the jet fighters and all of the equipment we're buying. And, it's two things, really. It is jobs, and that's far less important. But we build the greatest military equipment in the world. We have missiles that can knock out a missile in the air 97% of the time. And if you send two of them, it's going to get knocked out.
Is it fair to say if he keeps firing missiles, that's going to end?
Well, I don't want to say anything.
You don't want to
I'm just telling you, I don't want to talk about it because, all these people, they talk. I remember with Mosul, and, I use this all the time with Mosul. We are going to be attacking Mosul in 4 months. We're attacking Mosul in 3 months. I say, why do they keep saying it? Attack, do it, or don't do it, or whatever. But they kept talking about it. And by the way, it turned out to be hell on wheels. It was hard because they were so totally prepared. And I'm not saying I'm doing anything, and I'm not saying I'm not. But we shouldn't be talking about it.
Calm before the storm, you're not going to talk about that either?
No, I don't talk about it.
Where you are in North Korea, you raised some eyebrows when you said this is the calm before the storm. What's next on North Korea?
We're going to see what happens with North Korea. That's all I can say. We're going to see what happens. We're totally prepared for numerous things. We are going to see what happens with North Korea. I will say, look, if something can happen where we negotiate, I'm always open to that. But if it's going to be something other than negotiation, believe me, we are ready, more so than we have ever been. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Trump's recent comments on North Korea in interviews and on Twitter have fueled concern over the chances of escalation. But others at the White House are trying to downplay that issue, stressing the importance of diplomacy. Kwon Jang-ho has this report.
Signs of nervousness are growing in the White House in Washington as President Trump continues his strong rhetoric on North Korea. At a press briefing on Thursday, Trump's chief of staff, John Kelly, said the American people should be concerned about North Korea's ballistic missile capabilities and that the regime cannot be allowed to have a missile that can reach the US. But he also suggested that there is no need for panic yet, although there was still some anxiety in his words.
Right now, we think the threat is manageable, but over time, if it grows beyond where it is today, let's hope diplomacy works.
Later on Thursday, the State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert backed up Kelly's remarks about the importance of diplomacy. She said she was thrilled that the UAE and other countries had decided to cut their ties with North Korea and cited such moves as a key part of the diplomatic campaign to pressure North Korea to denuclearize. Meanwhile, several US senators have expressed their concerns over the president's approach to North Korea. 11 Democrats and independent Bernie Sanders signed a letter to President Trump earlier this week, warning that his inflammatory rhetoric was bringing the US and the world dangerously close to a war that could cost millions of lives, including Americans. The senators urged the president to seek a vigorous and sustained diplomatic campaign backed by sanctions that cut off Pyongyang's resources and influence its decision-making to move diplomacy forward. The letter adds that the diplomatic campaign requires the president's full moral support, as well as steady and responsible leadership. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.